Today on Keep Classical Weird, Dr. Sophia Tegart and I have an episode all about Tchaikovsky. So much emotion and so much memorable music, it's honestly hard to keep straight.
In the violin concerto, he actually uses a rhythm from Eugene Onegin.
Wait, which one? I've played
It's,
both, I should know.
Oh, I don't remember what it sounds like.
Oh, sorry. I'm like,
know
quote
that
it now. Welcome, friends, to episode 37 of Keep Classical Weird. I am your host, Casey Bozell, and today is all about Peter Ilyich Tchaikovsky. He was a Russian composer who lived from 1840 to 1893, and his life was and still is the subject of intense speculation. To this day, historians are working on unraveling the mystery behind Tchaikovsky's personal life. It's likely you recognize his name, but if you don't, it's highly likely that you've heard one of his many works that have weaved their way into our culture, such as The Nutcracker. What's your Tchaikovsky piece? What's your go-to Tchaikovsky piece?
Eugene Onegin, the opera.
No kidding! Really?
Yes. It is my all-time favorite opera, not just my favorite Tchaikovsky piece, it's my all-time favorite opera. I absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. It's just so, the music is beautiful. The story is by Pushkin and it's just so heartfelt. And I love a good story where the guy is like, no, I'm not in love with you. And then later realizes he is. And then the woman's like, peace out. I'm already married.
Right. You had your chance.
Yeah. I mean, she's clearly devastated that he took that long to tell her that he loves her. And it's like the end of the opera is just like tears, streams and streams of tears when I'm watching it. But I get a weird satisfaction out of her telling him no.
That's okay. That's legit. I was going to say, like, that's a bold choice for a favorite opera, but that makes a lot of sense.
Далекой стороне, в благом пылу нравоучения, читал когда-то наставления, та девочка, которой я пренебрегал бедной долей, ушелька была, так равнодушна, отвела.
I have to say, for me, I have to go with Violin Concerto. It's just...
Of course.
You know, of course I do. Yeah. I do. But I mean, you know what's funny is it's one of those, like, it's one of the big, like, 3 romantic concertos that we have. And I think it's my favorite one to listen to. Playing it for auditions is rough. Because I don't know if you feel this way too, and maybe this can kind of tie into their conversation. I feel like if you ask almost any, like, I'm going to say maybe even as early as junior high, but like any high school music student that's like in their youth symphony and they're thinking about having a career in music, that they're really entrenched. If you ask them their favorite composer, Tchaikovsky's going to come up for many of them. And I know that was true for me. Like, Tchaikovsky was like a go-to composer when I was young. He's still a go-to composer, but I feel as though my tastes have kind of rolled over into something a little less like he's so emotion all the time. Like there's no downtime with Tchaikovsky ever. Even his slow stuff is like, oh, it's filled with such. So I think an angst-filled teenage Casey really got a lot of satisfaction.
Oh yeah, it's all the hormones, right? The music appeals to you, the angst of your teen years and the hormone overload. And yeah, I agree with you, definitely. Those romantic composers in general, when you're coming up in your career, you're like, oh, I just feel his music, and then you get a little farther along, and I feel like you get a little bit more excited about some academic stuff. You're like, ooh, that's really cool. They did that texture shift, and like you get really academic about things, and it doesn't mean that you lose the emotional whatever. But I think by then you're also a bit tired of all the emotions of up and down with life and music careers. And so you're like, man, just give me something mathematical and academic.
Yeah. Enough with the drama.
Yeah. I've got enough drama.
Tchaikovsky's inner self must have been dramatic from beginning to end. There's really nothing of his that I can think of that's like, oh, this is nice. Like, it's all so involved.
Yeah, I've often wondered about that when I've done reading about his family and him, and it, from what I can tell in all of the readings I've done, it seems like he was always very sensitive, in his life, and he was really sensitive to words and language. And so like his family called him like the little Pushkin, because he was so emotive with words and really just read a ton and could speak multiple languages. And so I think that inner sensitivity just came out in everything that he did, even when he was at the beginning of his composition career, because he might not have had the technical facility that he did when he was older, but that emotional element. He didn't really pursue music to begin with. He was involved with music, but he ended up working with the government or as a civil servant, and his original study of music came from an aunt and studying opera outside of school. So it was more of a passion than his focus for a while. And then he ended up going to school, like for music. He went to the St. Petersburg Conservatory, and it was just nonstop from there. I mean, he just kind of took off. Like even nowadays, I mean, people start in at least elementary school, middle school, and then they go. But if you could just imagine like not really pursuing music or studying it until you were already 20 or older, that's a really big lifestyle change. I mean, career change, everything.
much of my career, I have kind of like jokingly referred to Tchaikovsky as a confirmed bachelor, but he super wasn't because he got married, right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so let's dive into the relationships and the view of sexuality, like
Right.
at that time in that place.
Okay, so first of all, there are so many rumors floating around about Tchaikovsky. Some of them you can almost nail down, and you're like, okay, yes, he was most likely homosexual. The only people who dispute it are Russia at the moment. I mean, that's
and like current Russia that
yeah, they're like, he's not gay, and it's like, oh, he was gay, and there's nothing wrong with that, Russia,
because they obviously want to claim him as like their homeland composer, but they're having a conflict with because their governmental views on homosexuality.
Yes,
got it.
Yeah,
okay.
So they are definite deniers, but I think most everyone else has settled on the fact that he was indeed gay. And so that's one like rumor that was floating around for a while and finally got mostly confirmed. Okay, so there's that. But yes, he did get married, and that marriage has a ton of rumors floating around that, which is I just love this. I mean, if Tchaikovsky were alive today, I mean, he would be in the gossip columns all the time, and he would be so upset about it, and I feel bad for him. But like, yeah, I think the fact that he was constantly trying to keep quiet about his life in general made him so enticing to us now. So he married this woman, Antonina, who, this is the rumor, and it's most likely false. He supposedly sent him a letter and said, I can't live without you. You have to marry me or else I will kill myself. And so, according to the rumor, he married her 2 weeks later in order to keep her from killing herself. And then shortly after realized what he did, and then they separated like 2 months later. Okay, so that's the rumor that was started by his brother Modeste. But according to some letters that have been found or some research that was done in the early 90s or something, it is more likely that he actually knew her beforehand and was writing to her for a little while, and then yes, they got married, and then he had a bit of an oh god, what did I do moment, and then they did separate. So like the outcome of the marriage, that was all true, but how he got married is the rumor. It's like there's conflicting stories. But what I find fascinating about that whole story is that while he was writing letters back and forth with Antonina, he was writing the Fourth Symphony and Eugene Onegin. And so Eugene Onegin is about this woman who is in love with this man who doesn't love her back. Fascinating, like how that might have, resonated with him while he was in the process of deciding to marry this poor woman.
That's very telling.
Oh, and then there's something about the fourth movement of Tchaikovsky's Symphony number 4 that it has like a melody that is a children's song that's about a birch tree that like the leaves and the twigs can get made into these like crown type things, and if you float them, or a wreath, and there's like this tradition where women will take the wreath to a river, and if it floats they're going to get married, and if it sinks they don't.
Okay, wait.
So
okay, wait a minute. Just I followed you that the theme and the fourth movement of the Fourth Symphony is this childhood tale.
Yeah. It's like a melody from a children's song, which is about this concept of
that thing.
The floating wreaths. Yeah.
That's wow. Okay.
I know.
Russia.
And he's writing that and Eugene Onegin at the same time that this whole marriage thing is going on. It's just fascinating to see how that interlocks. It's interesting to see the way Tchaikovsky really was worried about people thinking he was gay, which some historians have kind of latched onto that. And he was becoming very vocal about, marriage being really important right around the time when maybe people were starting to wonder. And then that's when he got married. So, like, he was very concerned about making sure that other people didn't know what he was like, in the public eye, I guess, is the main thing. So I think it's maybe one of those situations as well where, if you have a small group of friends, they're accepting, and you can kind of let them into what's going on with you, but you don't want the public knowing. It's just because he was worried about kickback if people found out, and what have you. And so he was constantly worried about gossip.
Okay.
Constantly worried about gossip. So that, I think, is why he's so interesting to us, because when we look back, we've been able to say no, he was homosexual, but now, like, looking back as well, we can see that he was really trying hard so that people wouldn't see that.
So you had said, all the rumors, but the one about him being gay is all but confirmed. So let's talk about the evidence there. There are letters, yeah?
There's some letters that, like, he wrote, I think, to his brother, or to friends that his brother got a hold of. But I think, it's also important to know that while most historians are like, yes, he was gay, a lot of the actual evidence came from Modeste's biography on his brother, and it has since been proven to be not a reliable source, like, for a recount of certain things. But at the same time, some of the stuff he says isn't not right. So, like, it's just one of those things. Like, you can look at that biography that his brother wrote and read it, and then if you take it at face value, you're going to believe all of this stuff. But underneath, there might be like a few kernels of truth, but a lot of it's just kind of exaggerated and told from a novelist's perspective or something. So, as far as I know, I don't know of any letters of him actually writing to a lover. I don't know of anything that obvious. I guess all of the evidence is somewhat circumstantial, but it points to the same answer, I guess.
It seems like that there's no reason for pushback on a historical factual standpoint.
Right.
Like, the only pushback, like, if historians are like, well, yeah, he was probably gay, the only reason to argue against that is because of some moral problem that one might have.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. I think it's pretty clear that he was. But then there are those music historians who then, because it came out that he was probably gay, started looking for evidence of it in his actual music. And so that was really popular in, like, the 90s. People were always searching through people's music looking for indicators that they're a woman or a man, or that they're gay or straight or something. And so I think that became a popular another popular thing to do with regarding Tchaikovsky, but there's no evidence. It's just, someone analyzing and saying, oh, this is, when he was maybe doing this or that or whatever. And he never wrote, hey, this piece is about my sexual identity, never.
So tell me about this, and this is kind of a recent discovery, I feel like, in the general span of things about what led to his death.
Yeah, okay. So there's a lot of speculation about how he really died.
I want to speculate like crazy. So let's do all the speculation.
Yeah. Okay. So the official death record says cholera. However, there have been rumors or maybe some papers were unearthed or letters or something. But a while back, someone claimed that Tchaikovsky actually died from drinking arsenic on purpose. And he did this because his sexuality was going to become public knowledge, and he was going to be ruined as a composer, and bad things were going to happen because of this revelation that was coming out. Some secret society told him, you can either kill yourself or, this is what's going to happen. And so the story is that he drank arsenic on purpose in order to save his, I guess, reputation. And again, we don't know if this is true, but what? And I guess one of the arguments was there were rumors about that. And then they started comparing, the symptoms of cholera with the symptoms of arsenic, and not knowing where he would have caught cholera again or going through all this stuff. The symptoms are similar. So that's kind of how they made that leap.
If you're trying to save your reputation in that way, that would make a lot of sense. And this is me again speculating on his music, that his music is so intense and physically and emotionally demanding, both.
Yes.
I've played the Nutcracker every year, and I'm still freaking wiped out at the end every time. Or it's something even more monumentous like that, like Swan Lake. Holy cats, that's hard. And so demanding for, or Sleeping Beauty, which we talked about on another podcast on the ballet. It's so good. Not only is that demanding for the musicians, like the dancers are talking about how it's the most challenging thing they dance to because of the amount of stuff that they have to do to respond to this music. So it seems to draw out such emotions from anyone, but they're not hard emotions to access. You know what I mean? They're like really basic, like love, need, desire. It's those emotions on the surface. It's not, it's not any like philosophical. You don't have to go very deep to figure out like the kind of like pain that Tchaikovsky must have been in when writing some of this stuff. And that's our show for today. Many thanks, as always, to Dr. Sophia Tegart at Washington State University. Our theme music is written by not dead composer Thomas Barber. Check out his stuff at thomasbarber.com. Web development support is provided by Tina at citybeautifuldesign.com. Keep Classical Weird is created and edited by me, Casey Bozell. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Patreon. Thanks so much for listening, everyone. Stay safe and stay weird.